educational channel and news. This evening, we're going to talk about an article I found on NPR News. This article was posted December 11, 2024. And what made me want to share this article was a discussion of dreaming of a Black utopia in Trump America. And I'm going to let this play for a little while so you can listen to this article, and then I'll come in and give my commentary on it.
Beach starts March 28th, only in theaters. This message comes from NPR sponsor Shopify. No idea where to sell? Shopify puts you in control of every sales channel. It is the commerce platform revolutionizing millions of businesses worldwide. Whether you're a garage entrepreneur or IPO ready, Shopify is the only tool you need to start, run, and grow your business without the struggle. Once you've reached your audience, Shopify has the internet's best converting checkout to help you turn them from browsers to buyers. Go to shopify.com/NPR to take your business to the next level today.
Before we get into the episode, I wanted to take a minute to ask for your help. We want to hear from our listeners about what you like about Code Switch and how we could do better. You can tell us what you think by taking our survey at npr.org/codeswitchsurvey.
And again, this is NPR.org news, fair use, and we're discussing the article that was posted on December 2024, Dreaming of a Black Utopia in Trump America.
Thank you. Hey everyone, you're listening to Code Switch, the show about race and identity from NPR. I'm B.A. Parker.
And I'm Gene Dunby.
Gene, do you think it's possible for us to ever live in a utopia?
You mean like some place where people skipping around with tie-dye on, you know what I mean? Making, I don't know, various nut milks with like-minded people. In this current climate, no, absolutely not.
I mean, all you need is a blender and some time, but when you put it like that, it sounds silly.
Why, you trying to live in a utopia or something?
I don't know. I think I just need the possibility of a place where I feel safe, or it's rather where Black people feel safe.
Have you ever had that before?
Well, from Baltimore, which already feels like a Black utopia.
Wait, really? What? Really?
I mean, it's a predominantly Black city, and it was a space where growing up I was surrounded by Black people who felt proud and were allowed to be who they were unencumbered. And honestly, it wasn't until I was surrounded by white people in middle school that I started, I don't know, like feeling bad about myself. And then I went to like a Black high school, went to an HBCU for college, and then like I felt great again. I felt good again.
Okay, yeah, okay. But I'm wondering if there's a difference between a space that felt safe for you and like a utopia. You wouldn't say your HBCU was a utopia, would you? And also, like, Black folks are not going to agree on what safety even looks like, you know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, not to say that Black folk don't have our own problems, but I am a Black woman in the world today, and especially in this political time, hostility towards people like me becomes more brazen when people in power seem cool with it. And I think about safety and security, and I find myself yearning again for a space where I feel safe and free. And it has me wondering, does that have to be a Black space?
Right, because if you're trying to make an intentional utopian community somewhere, doesn't some shared ethos, you know what I mean, some common cause matter more than a common identity?
These are all questions that Aaron Robertson was puzzling through in his new book, The Black Utopians. In it, Aaron explores the Black enclaves that came about post-Reconstruction all the way up to today. And he asks this big question: what does a Black utopia look like? It can be a lot of different things. And one of the places that fits the bill for Aaron might surprise you.
Detroit, the city that tends to be thought of, I think, as a kind of American dystopia.
All right, Parker, let's hear it.
This message comes from NPR sponsor 1Password. Secure access to your online world, from emails to banking, so you can protect what matters most with 1Password. For a free 2-week trial, go to onepassword.com/NPR.
This message comes from Thuma. Create your oasis with Thuma, a modern design company that specializes in furniture and home goods. By stripping away everything but the essential, Thuma makes elevated beds with premium materials and intentional details. With clean lines, subtle curves, and minimalist style, the Thuma bed collection is available in 4 signature finishes to match any design aesthetic. To get $100 towards your first bed purchase, go to thuma.co/NPR. This message comes from Progressive Insurance. Do you ever find yourself playing the budgeting game? Well, with the Name Your Price tool from Progressive, you can find options that fit your budget and potentially lower your bills. Try it at progressive.com. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and Affiliates. Price and coverage match limited by state law. Not available in all states.
Public media counts on your support to ensure that the reporting and programs you depend on thrive. Make a recurring donation today to get special access to more than 20 NPR podcasts. Perks like sponsor-free listening, bonus episodes, early access, and more. So start supporting what you love today at plus.npr.org.
I started out talking with Aaron Robertson about what makes a Black utopia, and he told me that some of the places he thinks of as utopias are pretty surprising to the people who haven't experienced them firsthand.
As soon as you leave Detroit and tell people where you're from, people will ask, so what's it like being there? And I think when I was a kid, I would internalize a lot of that. And I would be so focused on images of dilapidated homes and abandoned factories, and less concentrated on the stories of the people who were there, who were always making their home into a much better place. So I was curious about what it would be like to tell a story about Detroit and about other places where Black people have thrived that was a counter narrative of sorts, you know. And also, I grew up going to this small town in Tennessee, west of Nashville, called Promised Land, where my dad's dad was born. We would go down there every summer for family reunions and gatherings. And when I was a kid, I didn't have a great appreciation, I think, for the historic weight of a place like this. But as I got older, I realized that, okay, not all Black people come from towns like this, which is a very simple thing, but there were so many other stories of Black towns throughout the country, like in the South, in the West. And I wanted to write about these spaces that Black people have created throughout time, these safe havens that in some ways were outside of mainstream narratives. And I wanted to trace a broad history of these Black utopian spaces and ways of thinking about these spaces too.
Okay, so in your mind, what is considered a Black utopia? Like, is it just simply a safe space or a safe haven for the Black collective?
I think Black utopia can have so many meanings, like, which is the great and frustrating thing about it, right? I think there are these real physical spaces that African Americans have carved out in order to experience a sense of community, sure, but also these are spaces where Black people have been able to imagine alternatives to the social, economic, and political restrictions that historically have been imposed on Black people. So, you know, utopia is a way of relating to other people. It is ways of reinforcing the dignity of yourself and of your neighbor. And I think when you live in a world that has been trying to tell you as a Black person that maybe you aren't worth much, finding spaces where you can push back against that, I think, is fundamental.
All right, I'm going to do something terrible. I'm going to read you to you.
Oh my gosh.
And I want to apologize immediately. You ask this question early on in the book. It says, you say, quote, How have Black people, together and alone, created good places from the various nowheres to which they have been consigned for centuries? The dark town, the ghetto, the reform school, the internment camps, the segregated church, the former plantation site, the riot scarred street, and as in my father's case, the prison. Did you answer that question for yourself?
In part, yeah.
Okay, basically, the article is about, and you can look it up on npr.org, Dreaming of a Black Utopia in Trump's America. It's a book with the author named Aaron Robertson, and he tells the story of how Black folks have created many different versions of utopian communities throughout history, and why those communities tend to be especially meaningful during times of political tension and racial unrest. And it's good to know that there are Black communities where you can, if you're able to uproot yourself and um, live, get away from all that tension and um, the social issues of, and we have to all face reality. Some people try to say, well, racism is not bad, but then, look at the effects that it has on Black people and society, the injustice. When you look at the news, you know, um, injustice in the justice system, educational system, housing, and then you think about it, our ancestors, they lived through the same times, and, and it was may have been worse, but they were always able to overcome those issues, and today, there are ways to, find community. You just have to, try to trust in a higher power, and be creative. And sometimes it's the people you surround yourself with. Try to connect with successful people and um, learn about communities where you can move to, where you have peace, where you can thrive. And that is true. It's kind of hard, when you live in places where there's not a lot of opportunity, and every time you look up, you're being discriminated against, and in my opinion, that was going on during the Biden administration also. There was injustice going on when Biden went in office. Even before Trump, the issues have gotten worse, but the problem has always been there. And I think the main focus is you have to find ways to block out all that tension, and find somewhere to thrive. Um, you know, try to, that's where the family comes in. Try to take care of your children the best you can, and try to get them the best education you can. I know it's rough out here, because racial discrimination is real. I mean, not that we can't overcome it. We don't have it as bad as our ancestors did. It's just been refined, and has been, but we can overcome those challenges. That's basically what this article is about. And I think it's a good read for people to read, because he does suggest like things you could do, like maybe visit those communities, or think about relocating. um, because a lot of successful Black people, people that get themselves uprooted. They look for places where they can raise a family, and have their children get the best education. Because there are traps set up, to get these young black people into prison. And we hear about the school to prison pipeline, which is very real. We all been affected by it, through the education system. And it's a shame that so many young people have been caught up in the prison system. And we hear about the corruption in the music industry. They instigated, and then on the stock market, they make money off of privatization of prisons. They make money off of that. The more black people that get locked up, and it's heartbreaking. And it's good when you can volunteer in your community and help these young people get on the right path, empower these single parents and parents, give them options, resources, to uplift themselves, because I'm gonna be honest about it. The youth, some of the youth are doing on a good path, today, but a lot of them have fell to the wayside, and it's time. I know a lot of people, content creators, activists discuss it. you know, um, it's time that we put on our Superman cape and save our youth. Before if you don't have your youth, how can you people exist when they don't have their young people? Because our children are important, and all races of children are important, but we just can't neglect black children. That they're just as important as anyone, any other child. And a lot of times it seems like people just turn a blind eye to it. Even our own black people turn a blind eye to it. I know it's challenging out here to be successful. So many roadblocks for black people. Especially when you come from the bottom and try to pull yourself up to the top. But we can, like they say, you try to work where you're at and try to work yourself out of it, and you try to pull yourself out of that situation, to move on to something better. And it is definitely challenging, and it takes a whole lot of energy out of you. And people just have to, black people just have to go to the basics. Family comes first. Take your children on a vacation. And communication is good too within a family. Communicate with your children, see where your children are. Because there are a lot of predators out here. uh and it's a shame. But the main thing that young children need, they need that security. That's what they need. They need security. In a challenging world, they need that security. um And it is a shame. You know, a lot of the struggles that we face today, especially as Black people, are the same struggles our forefathers faced. And that shouldn't be happening. But you know, um, all we can do is just pray on it and try to do the basics: maintain family, fix our broken families, and try to find better solutions. And sometimes when you uplift people, instead of tearing another successful person down as Black, try to learn from them. Or a Black person that's successful, share with someone that's interested in pulling themselves up. And a lot of times it's fear, because like they say, the root of all evil is jealousy. you know um, we have to, the problem started in the education system, the neglect of some of the Black communities in education. You know, um, uh, differentiation of quality education. The black schools getting less resources, for education, but they always had good teachers in black schools, that cared about the kids. But then you have a lot of them that don't care about the kids. All they care about is money. But maybe those things will change. Maybe things will get better. But basically, this commentary was about the book, The Black Utopians, and I think that's an interesting read. It opens your eyes up about history and how and why. When you learn from the past, you can always implement solutions in the present. You know, and some of the things in the past that they had to overcome, black people can be instituted in the present, because it's the same issues. But not that things not going to change. It's a way that we can overcome it better. And that's my commentary about the book, Dreaming of a Black Utopia in Trump's America. I think that would be a good read for young people and also adults. Well, young people, mainly like high school students and adults. That would be a good read. Oh, okay, let me see. And they had another article on here. Let me see if I can get that. Police are our friends, and that's another topic you can listen to on NPR.org. Um, it's kind of challenging in the justice system. They always target. I mean, there are good police officers, and then if you're unfortunate and you live in an area that thrives off of racism, and it's unequal justice, it's kind of hard. Like if you live in New York, St. Louis, Chicago, on down, racism in those areas, it's institutionalized, you know, and the only way to resolve those issues is, black people just have to get together, activists, and work on, go back to these communities and see how we can work on that, um, try to, come together and work on those issues, because what affects one group, what affects us, because a lot of black people that they're individualistic, have that individualistic mindset. They don't realize that what affects one black person affects another one, you know. And they have that saying, it's not my problem, as long as it doesn't come to my door, and I think it just about hit just about a lot of people's door, it's a serious problem. That's why we have to be conscious of who we vote for, what policies we vote for, and we have to think about how it affects the our communities, the black communities, how it affects black people, how it affects black children. How does it affect our way of life, how we vote? Because it's a lot of corruption. And sometimes changes can be made by the politicians that you vote in. We have to figure out a way to get over that corruption, and come together in a community and work for what's best for the whole community, and it all comes down to common sense. But I'm going to play this podcast right here. This is another interesting podcast. The police are our friends, and I'll go ahead and play that for a little while. And got like a few minutes, I believe. Let me see if I can get that started. Okay, let me see. Well, basically, this one I couldn't get it started. Sorry about that. But this one, it was posted January the 8th, 2025. How should black parents talk to their kids about the police? Gene gets into it with his friends Shinjiro Kamanyika, host of Empire City, a podcast about the history of the NYPD. Shinjira's show sprang out of his own attempts to talk with his young daughter about the police and what to do and what they do. And with the news and media, I can imagine what go on in these young people's head. They don't they see so many of their counterparts, on the news. They see young people like themselves being mistreated by the police, and so it kind of puts a negative image in their mind, you know. But parents try to reinforce, police are they're a good police, and they're a bad police. And it's a shame that you have to take extra. I mean, they should be taught how to interact with authoritative figures, you know. But then it does become scary for the parent and the child, because it's so much corruption in these in the justice system. And we just have to, as black parents, you have to navigate. How can we get our children to cope with this sometimes political this environment with tension and politics and racial tension, and sometimes it's we just have to teach them, how to handle things with common sense, and then always from the spiritual, we just have to pray over them. You have to ask the Heavenly Father, to protect you and your children. And and it's not just black people in this country that experience racism. Other groups experience it, but it's just like it's more. I mean, all of it is bad, but it seemed like it predominantly affects black people. But all minorities experience racism. All minority groups, but you got to be real about it. Uh, Sometimes black people don't live after when it goes left. You know. And other groups, well, I just put it this way, it's just not as severe as what black people experience. And you would think things would have got better in 2025, that this country had overcame all the racism, but a lot of people keep it going. It's sad, they keep it going, and we just have to, as black parents and other minority groups, you just have to teach your children, and you have to teach them how to navigate uh, unjust system, And America could be is a good place to live, like all places, even foreign countries, they have corruption, but it's just the but it's just not to the magnitude of how you are born, and it's a shame, in my opinion, racism should be like a prison sentence given to people, I mean, because it defies human rights, and we all have a right to live and thrive, but like they say, life is not perfect. We just have to you have to make life perfect, you know. And you have to overcome your fear, and you have to and it's important to talk to your children about how to interact and how to deal with racism and keep that constant communication open. And that's my commentary on these podcasts on NPR. And the topics, the police are our friends, and the Black Utopia in Trump's America.